If you're thinking about making a move to the St. George area, you might be asking yourself, hey, what are the pros and what are the cons to living in this area? In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what you need to know. There's going to be some good things. There's going to be some bad things because after all, no area is perfect. Although St. George comes pretty close, there are going to be some downsides that you need to know about. So if you're interested in that type of content, make sure to stick around. We're going to cover the pros first, and then we'll jump into some of the cons of living here in the area. Now, as we do that, guys, my name's Cody Steck. I want to be your trusted real estate resource when it comes to real estate here in Utah. Whether you're looking in northern Utah or southern Utah here in St. George, if you're thinking about making that move here and you want to buy or sell real estate, make sure to reach out to me. My information is here on the screen. I've helped hundreds of people relocate right here to Utah over the past couple of years, and I would love to hear from you as well. So if you're in that scenario, make sure to reach out to me, get a call or a text or an email over to me, and let's chat. All right, so let's jump into this here. Now, number one on our list here is going to be the pros of St. George. So number one on our list here is that you get a smaller town feel here in St. George. The entire city of St. George for the metro area is about 180,000 people in total population, right? So 180,000 in the metro area. The entire county of Washington, which is where St. George sits at just under 200,000 in population. So the population here in St. George is still relatively low. It is growing very quickly, but 200,000 people for how much space is out here. There is still that smaller town feel, which gives it a nice, kind of just community. It gives you a nice family friendly area, and a lot of people really like that. If you're coming from a bigger city, there's a good chance you're probably going to like this. A lot of people really like the smaller town feel. You get out of the hustle and bustle a little bit. You don't have the big skyscrapers. It just kind of gives you a different way of life. Now, obviously in St. George, if you live right downtown or you live right off of one of the freeway exits, there's still going to be a lot of traffic. There's going to be a lot of people and a lot of tourists. But if you're willing to go 15, 20 minutes away from those main areas, it gets much quieter, right? You can go out to Ivins, for instance. It's going to be big lots, very quiet, very small town feel out in Ivins, but then you're still only a short 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes into town to get your daily amenities. So it's a very nice place to live. And that's one of the cool things about St. George is that it's very easy to get around and it gives you that smaller town feel. Number two on our list is that there's very low crime here in St. George, Utah. The crime here in St. George is well below the national average and is something that a lot of people look forward to. It's very clean, people are very nice, and overall there's just not a ton of crime. The crime that does happen is more so like property crime or non-violent crime, right? Which is a nice thing. It's not like you're having, all these horrible crimes happening all the time, especially to other people. And so that's a big benefit that a lot of people look at when making a move here to St. George. So if you're coming again from a major city where there's a lot of crime or maybe a rough area, this could be a welcome change for you. Number three on our list, I think, goes without mention, and you're probably looking at St. George, and this is probably one of the reasons you're looking at moving here. The national parks and the access to outdoor recreation here is absolutely unmatched. This is one of the coolest things about St. George is you can get to a number of different national parks in just a couple hours drive, some of them even less than an hour drive, depending on where you're starting from. And there's just so much to do, right? If you want to get outside, you want to go hiking, you want to go play on some water, you want to go, canyoneering, whatever it is, there's so much easy access to the outdoors from here in St. George. And the other cool thing, you're still only a couple hours drive from Vegas. You're only 4 hours from Salt Lake. It's very easy to get to these other major cities if you ever intend to do so. The fourth thing that we have on our list here is the great weather that we experience. Now, yes, it is going to be hot during the summers, which we'll talk a little bit more about here in a second, but you do get very mild winters, and the spring and fall months are actually very, very nice, right? One of my favorite things about living in St. George is that you get the very mild winters where, yes, it will be cold, but not quite cold enough to snow. And even if you do get a little bit of snow, it's only a skiff and it's gone, right? It's more like frost, really. So you get a little bit of that skiff of snow, maybe, most times not any at all, but it will get cold overnight, and then it warms up during the day to the point where you might only need like a long sleeve shirt or maybe just a light jacket. So that's one of the things I love about St. George is you can still get out even in December, January, February. You can still get outside, take the dog for a walk, go play with the kids at the park, or just, enjoy the outdoors, right? So that's one of the things I love about St. George. The winters are very mild, spring and fall months are very nice, and that gives you a lot of days out of the year to be outside enjoying it. Next up on our list here, number 5, is that you get a sense of community. When it comes to St. George, because of that small town feel that we talked about earlier, you get a nice sense of community. People are very friendly. There's good vibes going around, and everybody just seems to, kind of have a happier vibe to life living here in St. George. I think that's one of the most positive things about it. There's also a lot of tourists who come into town, to explore these national parks and just everything that there is in the area. And generally those people are pretty happy as well because they're on vacation. They're having a good time, right? So that's one of the things I love about it is you just get this really good sense of community that you don't find in a lot of other cities or states. Number 6 on our list is that the economy here in St. George is growing like crazy. We've seen a ton of growth over the past couple of years, and it's going to continue going in that direction. We're seeing more and more jobs come to the area, and we're seeing more and more growth, and that's bringing a lot of excitement to the area. People want to live here for the access to the outdoors, and therefore they need high-paying jobs in this area. So that's something we're seeing right now. The economy is growing, and there's a lot of opportunity out there. The next thing I want to mention on the pros, and we're going to get to some of the cons here in a second, so just stick with me here. The next thing for a pro is that the home prices here in the area are coming down. We did see home prices get pushed up over the past couple of years to a level that was honestly just a little bit unhealthy, right? We saw those numbers get pushed up, and then as soon as interest rates started to go up and the market started to slow down, we saw those prices come down very rapidly. We're down right now about 11 to 13%, depending on what area you're looking at, especially in those higher price ranges. We're seeing a lot of $1 million to $2 million homes that are selling for 15 to 20% less than what they would have been earlier this year, right? So we're seeing home prices come down, and it's getting more and more reasonable. I still think a lot of people would say, hey, these home prices are expensive for an area like this, but there's still people willing to buy and sell real estate here in this area at the prices. Now, I think that prices are going to continue to come down through 2023. I think that we could see them come down at least another 5 to 10%. Who knows, maybe even more. We'll have to wait and see, but I think at least another 5 to 10% is probably something that's realistic with the way that the market is going right now. So that being said, I think there's opportunity. If you're looking at purchasing a home, there's going to be, cheaper home prices than there was just a short 6-12 months ago. All right, now let's talk about some of the cons to living here in St. George. So one of the first things I have to mention, which I alluded to earlier, is it does get very, very hot, right? If you're thinking about making a move here, you're gonna have to put up with some of those hot summers where the temperature can often be 100, 105, 110, sometimes even pushing 115 during the middle of the day, in July and August. So this is one of the things you have to prepare for. If you're not used to that, this might come as a total shock. If you're coming from an area where you've got humidity, this is gonna be a little bit different, right? Because here in St. George, we don't have that humidity. So 115 feels a little bit different in that environment, but it's still going to be extremely hot. Overnight, it'll cool down a little bit. You might get down to like the 90s or the 80s, but it's a little bit of a weird feeling to be outside at like 5 in the morning and it's still like 85 or 90 degrees outside and you're like sweating, right? It's just kind of a weird feeling, something you'll have to adjust to. And so that's why that makes number 1 here on our list, is that it gets very hot. June, July, August, September are going to be extremely hot and something that you might need to adjust to. Maybe that's when you go travel. Maybe that's when you get outside of town, right? So that's the first thing I have to mention here. Now, next up on our list, we're going to talk about fewer high-paying jobs here in the area. As we do that, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe. I talk about everything you need to know about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, and play here in St. George. And if you're enjoying this content, you want to make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing when I release these new videos every single week. So we're planning on a schedule of releasing videos on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. And if you don't want to miss those videos, make sure to subscribe. Okay, so that being said, talk about the fewer higher-paying jobs, right? As I mentioned, the economy is growing. There's a lot of opportunity coming to the area, but right now there's not a ton of high-paying jobs. Most of the high-paying jobs in the area are for the working professionals, right? That's going to be your doctors, your attorneys, or your business owners. Unfortunately, right now, if you're looking for like a high-paying tech job, there's just not a ton of those out there. If you're looking for a high-paying finance job or government job or something, there's not a ton of those out there in St. George, and so that can be one of the drawbacks. If you're thinking about making a move here, you might want to be in a position where you can work 100% remote and possibly have a backup plan where if you do end up losing your job, you're going to be able to work remote for another company that's not in St. George, or at least think that, at least prepare and plan on, there being a job in the future in St. George if you're thinking about making a move here, right? So just kind of plan a little bit around that. Be aware that there's not a ton of high paying jobs here in St. George like there would be in Salt Lake or Vegas or some of these other major surrounding cities. But if that's not a concern to you because you're working entirely remote or you feel pretty confident in your situation, then maybe not a con for you. Next up, we've got number 3 here. So number 3 on our list is going to be the lack of high-end shopping, stores, and restaurants. Once you move here, you're going to realize, man, there's not a ton of places to go and eat that aren't, just your general fast casual restaurants, right? You're going to have all of your general stuff. You're going to have your fast food, your McDonald's, your Arby's, your Wendy's, whatever. You're going to have some other places that are more kind of like fast casual, such as Chipotle or Cafe Rio or whatever it might be. But when it comes to like, one-off or high-end restaurants, there's not a ton of that. If you're looking for high-end shopping, you're looking for a downtown where you can kind of go and spend an afternoon, there's just not a lot of that out here, right? That's not what this area was kind of designed for, and that's not what people have traditionally been looking for. So for a lot of people, you might say, that's fine, I don't really need that. But other people might be surprised, especially if you're coming from another major city. You might be wondering, hey, why is there like no options for food out here? You know, what's going on? Why are we so lacking in this environment? And that's just kind of the way things are. You know, it's partially because of population, and also just because people in the past up until now haven't really, demanded that of the market, if you will. Now, next up, I want to talk about home prices again. So I did include home prices on a list of positives that home prices are coming down, but I also want to include it here as a potential negative because home prices overall still are quite expensive. If you look at what you can get a really nice home for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 here in St. George. But for some people, that might be, really expensive, right? If you're coming from like the Midwest or another cheaper market, that might seem really expensive for a smaller town here in Utah. Again, if you're coming from another major city, that might look like a deal. It might look like a discount, right? So it all is kind of relative on where you're coming from. Home prices overall, yes, they did get a little bit extended over the past couple of years. They're starting to come back down to a more reasonable level. And I think that's something that a lot of people are looking forward to. So depending on when you're watching this video, home prices may have already come down. Maybe they've gone back up. I don't know. But as of right now, I think a lot of people would say, home prices are a little bit high, and, people are hoping that they come down if you're looking to buy, right? If you're a homeowner, you want them to stay as high as possible. But that's kind of just the market we're in and something you have to prepare for. Next up on our list here, we've got lack of nightlife and entertainment. Kind of going in line with the third one that we just talked about a couple minutes ago. There's not a ton of high-end shopping stores and restaurants, and there's also not a plethora of nightlife and entertainment here in the area. You're not going to have any major sports teams. You're not going to get, regular concerts where you get these big celebrities or musicians coming to town. So there's not going to be a lot of that, and there's just not a ton of nightlife or entertainment. Now, I would say that most of the people who live here or are thinking about moving here, they're not looking for that anyway. So they don't really care about that, but it is something to be aware of. If you like to go out on a Friday or Saturday night and do something fun, kind of get that entertainment that you're looking for, there's not going to be a lot of that. There's not going to be a lot of nightlife, bars, clubs, anything like that. So that might be a potential negative for you. With that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you're thinking about making a move here and you want to buy or sell real estate along the way, I'd love to be your trusted real estate resource when it comes to doing that. Whether you're looking in northern Utah or here in southern Utah, we'd love to help. My team and I service the entire state, and we cannot wait to hear from you as well. So reach out to me, call, text, or email anytime. My information is here on the screen. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And with that said, catch you in the next one.